Magnavox presents Odyssey, the electronic game of the future.
The first gaming console, the Magnavox Odyssey, was released in 1972, a groundbreaking moment for technology and entertainment. Advertised as a family-friendly home entertainment system, it promised to bring people together around the television for hours of fun. Just a few years later, in 1977, Atari launched the Atari VCS, later known as the Atari 2600. Like the Magnavox Odyssey, Atari marketed itself as a way to connect with your family. Ads showed families smiling, laughing, and enjoying games together, a wholesome vision of gaming for the mother, father, son, and daughter. Fast forward to the 1990s and something has shifted. Gone were the cheerful depictions of families playing together. Instead, gaming ads began marketing to only typical straight men.
The full-color portable video game system that separates the men from the boys.
Advertising gore, competitiveness, and sex appeal. What happened to this family-friendly fun? How did the industry take a step backwards in inclusivity and connection even as technology leaped forward? Let's go back to the Atari 2600 real quick. It was a hit, and in the years to follow, numerous other consoles and games were released. Gaming was booming, and everybody wanted a piece of the pie. However, with limited technology at the time, games were becoming too similar to one another, and studios were focusing on quantity over quality. To top it all off, home computers were beginning to become cheaper and more easily accessible, stealing the spotlight of the tech world. This caused what is called the video game crash of 1983, where many people just lost trust and interest in video games and home consoles. Many companies went bankrupt, and between 1983 to 1985, video game revenue in North America fell from $3.2 billion to only $100 million. Companies needed to change their approach if they wanted to stay afloat, but how? Gaming companies couldn't advertise to the entire family anymore. Those ads required more money these companies just didn't have, so they had to make some big changes. One of the main shifts was rebranding the console as a toy instead of a home entertainment system, aiming it at kids and teenagers between the ages of 6 to 16. Consequently, old school thinking meant that toys had to be either a girl toy or a boy toy. Obviously, they chose to advertise it as a boy toy. But honestly, saying they chose to advertise video games as a boy toy is an understatement, because it was never seen as a choice. One of the earliest female game designers and former Atari employee Brenda Laurel said, "So many companies didn't even consider if there was a market of female gamers, and often was told by our supervisors, of course girls don't play games. Why are we going to waste money on this audience that doesn't exist?"
I know more men play video games and women don't get the chance at a young age. I remember my mom introduced my brother to video games before she even cared about me. I had to kind of stumble upon and buy my own things.
Many ads showed young boys playing video games, helping push the boy toy narrative. Commercials were clearly marketing games as exciting toys to young boys.
And blow your opponent away. Game Boy, only from Nintendo.
By the early 1990s, consoles became almost exclusively advertised to young men and boys. The issue wasn't just companies were advertising to boys, but how they were advertising. Ads gradually got more problematic as they switched from just alienating women to negatively stereotyping them. Women went from being excluded from the market to becoming a tool for the market. Women were often put into the ads for the sole purpose of keeping boys' attention, ranging from pretty girls next to consoles or games to increasingly lewd and adult themes. Video game ads often had provocative content that loosely related to the product. Even with seemingly innocent games such as sports or racing titles, advertisers still found a way to take full advantage of the fact that sex sells. Another way women were a tool in marketing is by having ads show that playing games or consoles helps get the attention of girls. The issue with this marketing strategy is it will pull in an audience, specifically an audience of young boys who objectify and stereotype women. But that's not where it ends. In the late 90s, online PC gaming was starting to become popular, allowing gamers to play with real people with almost full anonymity. Video game ads began to emphasize violence and gore, and it was promoted as a way to blow off steam instead of a friendly competition. For example, Sega emerged with ads for Heat.net, an online PC gaming platform. A disturbing fictional testimony reads, "I used to take out my bullets, and on each one, I'd write the name of each person on my bus. Then a friend showed me I could purge my violent urges in NetFighter on Heat.net against other people. Thanks to Heat, the people on my bus will never know how close they came. And that's not the only disturbing ad Sega released. Heat.net had t-shirts reading "Cyber bullets cause no pain," along with saying how their games will lead to a peaceful reality through a violent cyberspace, claiming everyone has a reptilian complex that causes us to be angry, territorial, and violent. Heat said not to suppress this, as suppressing it would cause people to want to go to war or become serial killers, and that it's better to release your aggression into the cyberspace. Another issue lies in the way games were marketed, with a heavy emphasis on trash talking. Combining this with the new focus on violence and anger crossed the line into endorsing hateful and toxic behavior. Marketing teaches customers how to engage with the product, shaping their expectations and social norms through different messages. The unintended message here was that these online services are a space where verbal harassment thrives under the protection of anonymity. A little trash talk is a natural part of any competition, and when kept friendly, it can even enhance the experience. However, there's a critical distinction between playful jabs and outright harassment.
And another thing, you little man, want to be, you little boy, it wasn't 4 against 6, it was 4 against 5, and you still raised quit like a little dash-bony little boy, little melon.
As Xbox stated in 2019, hate has no place here. And what's not okay is when that trash talk turns into harassment. Xbox's statement proved to be too little too late. By then, the gaming industry had already seen countless instances of serious online harassment. In 2009, Anita Sarkeesian created the YouTube channel Feminist Frequency, which analyzed gender representation in various forms of media and pop culture. In 2012, she started a Kickstarter campaign to fund a new video series called Tropes vs. Women in Gaming, a video series covering plot devices and patterns with female characters in video games. Anita was no stranger to video games, nor was she trying to tear the industry down. In fact, she'd been playing video games for most of her life, so she was used to the standard online troll that the gaming industry was full of. But when this Kickstarter was launched, she was met with a much different and even more intense response. People sent and posted death and rape threats, attempted to collect her personal information, vandalized her Wikipedia page with pornographic images, and sent her images that depicted her being raped by video game characters. A game called Beat Up Anita Sarkeesian was created, where players make a picture of Anita bloodier with each click. They also tried to get all of her social media accounts suspended and even reported her Kickstarter as fraud. Despite all this, her Kickstarter campaign exceeded its goal of $6,000 and raised over $150,000. With this added funding, she was able to produce more videos and create a classroom curriculum that would be free for educators.
What happened to me, and sadly to other women as well, can best be described as a cyber mob. The end result is maintaining and reinforcing and normalizing a culture of sexism, where men who harass are supported by their peers and rewarded for their sexist attitudes and behaviors, and where women are silenced, marginalized, and excluded from full participation.
On March 19, 2014, Sarkeesian received the Game Developers Choice Ambassador Award, an award dedicated to those who helped the game industry advance to a better place through facilitating a better gaming community. That morning, however, an anonymous email was sent to 25 GDC organizers threatening to set off a bomb if the award wasn't revoked. The San Francisco Police Department Explosive Ordnance Disposal Division checked the entire building and found nothing, but security was heightened and random bag checks were increased. Anita accepted her award with no issue, but she realized that the cyber mob that she had encountered 2 years prior was evolving into something more violent, pervasive, and powerful. Later that same year, it reached a tipping point, leading to the most infamous harassment campaign in the gaming community. On August 16, 2014, a programmer named Aaron Yonid posted a lengthy blog titled The Zoe Post. It was a complete tirade about his ex-girlfriend and developer of the 2013 game Depression Quest, Zoe Quinn. The post was accompanied by screenshots of their private conversations and accused her of cheating on him with multiple people. The accusation that stood out to some people was Quinn allegedly cheating on Yoni with Nathan Grayson, a journalist for the gaming website Kotaku. People immediately created and spread the Quinn-spiracy on the online forum 4chan that Quinn slept with Grayson in exchange for a positive review of Depression Quest. But Grayson never even reviewed the game, and Kotaku's investigation found no evidence to support this rumor. That didn't matter to the Quinn-spiracists though, as Quinn was met with countless rape and death threats, both on 4chan and Twitter, disguised under the veil that it was actually just putting a spotlight on ethics and journalism.
There was no mention of ethics and journalism at all, outside of making the same accusation everybody makes towards any successful woman, that clearly she got to where she is because she had sex with someone.
The abuse quickly got worse, as private nude photographs of Quinn were leaked, as well as her home address, causing her to leave her home and go from couch to couch in fear of her safety. Just 9 days after the Zoe post, Anita Sarkeesian released the latest entry of her Tropes vs. Women in Gaming series. Within 2 days of its release, she was met with extreme threats against her and her family, causing her to flee her home in a similar instance to Zoe Quinn. Pre-existing hatred for Sarkeesian, combined with the Quinn-spiracy, created the narrative that feminists wanted to control and censor games and take them away from men, when in reality they just wanted to share the space with proper representation. The movement went from online users with a loose affiliation with one another to a controlled operation when conservative actor Adam Baldwin tweeted about the situation with #Gamergate, giving people a specific name and movement to identify themselves with, leading to more severe scare tactics. In October, Sarkeesian was set to give a speech at Utah State University about the portrayal of women in video games, when a similar situation to her GDC award acceptance occurred.
There was a threat that someone emailed to the school saying that they would commit the biggest school shooting, a massacre, if I was allowed to speak.
The email continued saying, "Feminists have ruined my life, and I will have my revenge. For my sake, and the sake of all the others they've wronged." Utah State University did not have any pat-downs or metal detectors at the events, and the campus police said they found it similar to the other threats that Sarkeesian has received in the past, and there was no threat to students. Sarkeesian canceled the speech. It was around this time that the founder of game studio Giant Space Cat, Brianna Wu, began to write about harassment in gaming, and specifically Gamergate. She became an official target when she tweeted something ridiculing Gamergate. Within the same week, users of the pro Gamergate forum 8chan posted her personal information, such as her address, as well as death threats. It quickly spread from 8chan to Twitter, and an entire Twitter account named Death to Brianna was created exclusively to send death threats to her. Wu called the police, who advised her and her husband to leave her home and offered to send patrol cars. Within just a couple of months, Quinn, Sarkeesian, and Wu all left their homes due to harassment, and Gamergate created more and more plans to take down anyone who was not on their side, going as far as to create a list of social justice warrior journalists, which was basically a list of anyone who spoke out against Gamergate. They created Operation False Flag 2, where they made fake feminist Twitter accounts and harassed Wu for objectifying women. This was actually part of a larger operation called #NotYourShield, where Gamergate created fake Twitter accounts posing as women who support Gamergate to say that they were tired of feminists speaking on their behalf. While the operation was quickly exposed, it showed that Gamergate could coordinate specific attacks beyond physical threats. Operation Disrespectful Nod was a targeted boycott against websites that criticized Gamergate. Unilever and Scottrade were persuaded to drop major media buys. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Intel, and Mercedes-Benz USA all pulled ads due to pressure from Gamergate. Gamergate had now spread to affecting entire businesses, but this does not mean Gamergate had won. Anita Sarkeesian was named in Time's 100 Most Influential People of 2015, and in that same year, Brianna Wu created a legal defense fund for women targeted by Gamergate, and collected death threats that she would later send to the FBI. The FBI revealed their report in January 2017, but details such as victims' names and harassers were censored. The report showed that the FBI left people off with warnings, even when they confessed to death threats and harassment. Wu claims her team gave the FBI a hard drive of over 180 cataloged death threats related to Gamergate, but barely any information was ever looked into. The Gamergate controversy was just the beginning. as major problems developing within the game companies themselves began to rise to the surface, including Riot Games, known for the wildly popular multiplayer game League of Legends, and the more recently released competitive first-person shooter Valorant. Former employees, or rioters, as the company likes to call them, filed a lawsuit against Riot in November of 2018 that cited many examples of discrimination and harassment that went reportedly unaddressed. These examples included requiring female workers to temporarily fill roles above their current title and pay grade, but then ultimately hiring a man to fill the roles permanently. Women were objectified in the workplace, with a list being created and passed around called Riot Games' Hottest Women Employees. 2 male workers who were known vocal advocates for gender diversity in the workplace were fired from their positions. Women were belittled for having families or even just speaking too much, and were often showed pictures of male employee genitalia, and frequent sexual jokes were made about rape, masturbation, and female body parts. The lawsuit would eventually lead to a $100 million settlement in December of 2021 and applied to over 1,500 women who are or were staffed or contractors at Riot Games. The settlement agreement also called for Riot Games to spend $18 million over 3 years to fund diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. They were also required to fill 40 full-time engineers, quality assurance, or art design positions with women who had worked as temporary contractors. A year later, Riot had women comprising over 20% of its leadership team, and 25% of Riot Games overall, compared to an all-male leadership team prior to the lawsuit. Riot Games wouldn't be the only major gaming company to see harassment and discrimination issues, as Activision Blizzard would suffer a similar fate. In June 2021, game studio Activision Blizzard faced lawsuits from both California Department of Fair Employment and Housing and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission regarding Blizzard's issues with sexual harassment. The companies, whose workforce was 80% male, allegedly had a frat boy culture, where female employees faced sexual harassment, discrimination, and retaliation on a regular basis. It was reported management not only allowed, but encouraged what was nicknamed cube crawls, where male employees would visit female cubicles while drinking excessively and making unwanted advances, including physical contact. In 2013, during Blizzard's annual convention BlizzCon, an employee's hotel room was nicknamed the Cosby Suite, in reference to Bill Cosby's sexual harassment cases and the employee's history of harassing women. Though some tried to say it was only named that because of the room's ugly rug pattern resembling Bill Cosby sweaters. One female employee reported being raped by her supervisor in 2016 and 2017 after being coerced into drinking at a work party. And sources from within the company stated that management would dismiss cases of sexual harassment, and HR reports lacked confidentiality, leading to retaliation from their abusers. Tragically, Carrie Moynihan, a 32-year-old finance manager at Activision Blizzard, died from suicide during a corporate retreat in 2017 after facing severe harassment, including colleagues sharing her nudes at a company holiday party. In March 2022, 5 years after her death, her parents filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Activision Blizzard in Los Angeles County, claiming that workplace misconduct and harassment significantly contributed to her death. The DHEF lawsuit was referred to as a part of this lawsuit, and it was revealed that Moynihan's supervisor hid that the two had a sexual relationship in exchange for favors, or a quid pro quo relationship. Activision Blizzard reportedly failed to cooperate with law enforcement, refusing to provide access to the victim's company laptop, claiming that her phone had been wiped, and denying access to the supervisor's devices. Activision Blizzard paid a $54 million settlement for the DFEH lawsuit and an $18 million for the EEOC lawsuit, and multiple higher-ups named in the lawsuits left the company. The family of Carrie Moynihan filed a request for permanent dismissal of the lawsuit in June 2022. All this harassment, lawsuits, and even death leads us to ask one question. Has progress even been made? Things like Gamergate showed the power social media had in creating and spreading narratives with a mob mentality, and people even recognized the influence it had on getting people involved in the alt-right. Some people believe that we could be in the middle of a second Gamergate, with the target slightly shifting from feminism to wokeness. The new narrative people use as an excuse to harass developers is that female, racially diverse, and LGBTQ+ characters are being forced into games.
Today, we all, however, face the added challenge of distinguishing between genuine feedback and attacks driven by intolerance. The current climate is tough on our creative teams. They face lies, half-truths, and personal attacks online. When the work they've poured their hearts into is twisted into a symbol of division, it's not just disheartening, it can be devastating.
In 2023, a GDC survey found 91% of developers think that player toxicity and harassment of developers is a problem for the industry, and that men were much less likely to experience or witness harassment from players than women, non-binary, and LGBTQ developers. Another study found that men still make up almost 2/3 of game developers.
People look at me, and if you tell somebody I'm doing game design, they're so surprised. They're like, "That's so interesting." They think it's freaking Cal jumped over the moon moment. It's insane. But if a man says it, they'll be like, that's got so much money involved. They never bring up it actually being a career with me. I think it's just something people aren't used to, and I'm hoping it changes.
This may make it seem like we're back to square one, but let it be known that significant progress has been made. Social media companies have begun to crack down on hateful content, as Twitter instituted harsher policies in 2017, resulting in some accounts being banned, and Reddit banned over 2,000 subreddits in 2020. Additionally, the gaming industry as a whole has evolved and put a greater focus on caring values, inclusivity, and community. Games like Quinn's Depression Quest were among the first to explicitly explore themes of mental health without stigmatizing it. Not only did this lead to gamers being more accepting of mental health themes in games, but it also led to them being more accepting and inclusive of other underrepresented themes overall.
I do believe that the gaming industry is becoming more inclusive. Spiritfarer is an example of a game that doesn't have clear gender roles or exclusive gender identities.
Finding people who play the same games as you, like my best friend and I, we played Pokemon. One of my friends from college, she started a Twitch stream years ago, and one of her first viewers is actually now a longtime friend.
It's not uncommon to hear how video games helped people foster a community. Women make up almost half of the gaming population, with younger generations having increasingly more female gamers. In 2014, Girls Make Games was founded to provide girls with workshops and camps to teach them game design. Since then, they have reached over 6,400 girls via workshops and camps, and 23,000 girls via tutorials and other online resources. In 2022, they created Girls Make Games Scholarship Fund to help fund female game design students' college education, and to help kids attend their workshops and camps. The scholarships also include internship placement assistance and mentorships, ensuring that women can find a place in the gaming industry. 2009 as an activist group to get more women involved in game development through monthly gatherings, ambassador programs, career events, and conferences. Their ambassador programs are for individuals, companies, and educational institutions and allow them to engage in multiple different initiatives and research opportunities. The industry has continued to recognize and award its female pioneers. After leaving Atari, Brenda Laurel co-founded Telepresence Research, pioneering virtual reality development, and she also co-founded Purple Moon in 1996, which focused on creating games for girls aged 8 to 14. She was given the Trailblazer Award at the 2015 Indiecade Festival. Muriel Tramus was the first Black female game developer and an advocate for women working in the gaming industry. In 2018, she was appointed a Knight of the Legion of Honor, which is the highest order of merit for both civilian and military in France. She is the second game designer and first woman to ever receive that order. More recently, USC Games awarded her their inaugural Lifetime Achievement Award. Carol Shaw was the first female developer hired by Atari. When she was first hired in 1978, the Atari president at the time said finally she can do interior decorating or cosmetic color matching games. Instead, she worked on the critically acclaimed 1983 game River Raid, which led to her colleagues saying she was one of the best programmers, period. Her work was so successful, she was able to retire at the age of 35. Shaw also received the Industry Icon Award at the 2017 Game Awards. Mabel Addis is considered the first female game design ever, and the first person of any gender to write narratives for video games. She created the text-based game The Sumerian Game for IBM in 1964, pioneering features such as cutscenes and content updates. She was awarded the Pioneer Award at the 2023 Game Developers Conference. While men still make up the majority of the space, many women have been able to find a voice in the gaming world and move the industry forward, enduring things that no human should have to go through for the sake of their favorite art. All these women turned a toxic and exclusive club into a place where anyone can play.